So we're going to go ahead and dive in today. Kathleen will lead us in our session. Sandra and I will be checking the chat. If there's any questions, we'll be sure to get to them. If you've not gotten into Campground, please do so. There's some resources there. All right, Kathleen, take us away.
Okay, great. I think I have my slides up. Can everybody see them? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk to y'all today about how to do a buyer pitch. We have sort of a formula for what the slides should look like, but just as a reminder, I've already done my intro, but I was with Whole Foods for about 12 years. 6 of those I was in a buyer position. So I've heard a lot of pitches. I've heard some great ones. I've heard some not so great ones, and some really wackadoodle ones. So we want to make sure that all of you guys are prepared and sort of know what to put into your pitch deck going forward. So let's get started. This is just sort of, general overview, but buyer pitch, you really want to know your audience. That's the most important part. So your audience is the buyer, and typically you're going to be reaching out to them, via email just to, get on their radar. But the actual pitch is usually an invite-only situation. So occasionally we have like an open call, like Tristan was just talking about with our Walmart program, which is Walmart open call, or a contest, which Ariana's in today, which is sort of like a fast pass to the buyers. But generally the buyers are going to ask you to come in to pitch. And so, asking them over and over again for a meeting isn't really necessary and can sometimes be annoying, because usually they're gonna look for you when they're making the decision on your product category. They may have their own pitch requirements, so make sure you ask. This is a framework that is sort of a general framework. They might have a pitch deck that they want you to fill in. They might have certain questions that they want you to answer in a certain way. So definitely ask them how they want to see the pitch. The buyer represents a specific customer, product line, and value for the store. So, you know your customers, but it's really important that you know that your customers shop at this store that you are pitching to. If your customers are not shopping at that store, it's not going to mean a lot to the buyer, because they're really looking to make money for their own store. And finally, they hear millions of pitches. So please be concise, be memorable. We want to hear your, personality, your origin story. But, they hear a lot, and, sometimes it gets repetitive. So make sure you're really showing your differentiation. Okay, so here are some high-level tips. Research, like we talked about, know the store, definitely go into the store. If you're pitching at Walmart, you need to be in Walmart, in the aisle that your product's going to be in. You need to know that your product is going to fit on the shelf at Walmart. Sometimes things as simple as like your bottle is too high for the height of their shelf is going to knock you out of the competition. So really get in there and know your retailer. Come prepared, bring your line sheets so they can see all of your products. Have your products on hand. If you have a food product, they want to taste it. So definitely bring samples. If you have a product that is best sampled hot, you need to bring it hot. If it's frozen, you need to bring it frozen. It needs to be tasted in its best possible form. And they're definitely going to want to do that. Yes, Tristan.
Sorry, one thing to add. So I think a lot of us in this day and age are used to technology, right? So we have these beautiful decks that we create. We expect to have access to a computer and, a toggle and all of those things. You literally need to be prepared as though the power went out and we have candles and you need to pitch. So how do you get the food the optimal temp? How do you get maybe a paper copy of your deck in front of them? You always need to kind of plan B, plan C, plan F this. And I was even thinking too, like around the bath bombs, right? It's like the way that it smells or the way that it disintegrates into water, like you'd want to create a simulation of that for them. Again, with whatever the product is, you want them to interact with it, and imagine it within their store. So set the scene for that. Even if there was no power, if you had to pitch in the wilderness to a buyer, what would that look like?
Exactly. Yeah. And know your capabilities, know your numbers. And the last piece is be concise. And this is a really important one. The buyer wants to know about your product. They kind of want to know about you. So if you have an origin story that is truly relevant and interesting and tells the story of how you got to where you are, please tell it. But don't say too much. They don't want a TED talk here. They want to just hear about the product. They want to know about you, but not that much is the end story. Okay, so let's start off with some like tips. I know a lot of you have already pitched to buyers, so if anybody would be willing to come off mute and share that story or put it in the chat, please do. We'd love to hear any tips or tricks or tools you've used, lessons learned, both positive and negative would be helpful.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
This is Emily.
hi,
So
Emily.
I pitched to Meyer last year, and one of the things for me that stuck out more is your personality. So they want to know about the product, but they're also looking to see who is behind this product. And so
Mm-hmm.
they may ask a random question just about you. It's not so much as personal, but just to really get a feel for who is this person and do we want to do business with them. And so that's what stood out to me with Meyer. It was a panel of three, and each one of them had their own question. So they initially started off asking more about the product, but then it kind of segued into questions about me as the owner.
Totally. Yeah, they want to know that you're reliable, that have enough intelligence and know how to actually get the product to shelf when it needs to be there. So that's 100% true. They're going to sort of feel you out a little bit and try to get to know you because they're going to have a, strong relationship with you. They need to be able to trust you as well. If you're saying that you can do a certain amount of capacity, they want to know that they're not going to get caught with empty shelves because you actually can't. So they're going to try to see if they can trust you too.
I love what Stephanie wrote. She has show the retailer the potential sales customized to the store's total store count with velocity and data. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this really early in the program. You're taking the guessing work out for them. If you have proof of success and velocity in another store or in a website or something along those lines, being able to then mirror that within their store and show the success there, again, takes out them doing the math, takes out them doing the guessing, and really shows that you understand. I mean, like we've already heard, right, that my product is doing 6% in a category that's 3%. Like if I'm a buyer, I want to have that product in my store because it's outperforming something else that already exists. So,
Totally. And I have this later in the competition in the presentation too. But you need to think about your buyer having to pitch your product to their boss. So often they're the ones that are going to say yes or no, but then they're going to review all the changes that they're making to their set with their boss. So they need to be able to really clearly, you know, pitch on behalf of you, sort of. They need to be able to say, this is going to win because of these reasons. This is the customer. So make sure that you're making things really clear and memorable for them too. Anybody else have any buyer tips? Buyer pitch tips?
Hey, I'm gonna come off mute because there's so much to type. Hi, it's Tatiana, founder of Defy Snacks. So I've pitched buyers working for large companies and now very different pitching them working for my own startup. But they are all different, so you kind of have to read them and figure out, do I talk about my personality? Do I go off on family tangents or not? Um, I mean, it's a brand, so a lot of times it does help you. They do. They're having you in. It's an emerging brand, so a lot of times they actually do want to know who you are.
Yeah.
But I guess like where my one surprise, because I come from, I worked for Mars Wrigley, which is the biggest chocolate company in the world, essentially. So I've pitched to buyers at, Walmart, Target, and a lot of times like it'll be, you'll think you're going to have a strategic category driving conversation. Sometimes it comes down to cost, but it's almost like I've had the best in class experience. And so now what I'm experiencing on the emerging brand side is not every, like, I feel like I've dealt with like really amazing buyers, and now not every single buyer that I've met is actually really great. Um, and sometimes their feedback is, just take it with a grain of salt. Some is really helpful if it's talking about what it's doing, what your product is doing for their category, their shopper. That's awesome. But if you're getting consumer level feedback, I like X, I don't like X, and there's no true rationale, Well, sometimes that buyer, I mean, they're just like people just like us. They can be good at their jobs and they can be bad at their jobs.
Totally.
Sometimes it's just like, you know what, that buyer is not a good steward of their category and you just move on. So I think that
Mhm.
was the biggest realization coming in. Like you think all the buyers are just going to give you this like amazing strategic category driving feedback. And they're just like, I don't like dark chocolate, so my consumer is not going
Yeah.
to like dark chocolate. And you're like, that's not great feedback.
Yeah. And also sometimes it's because their particular retailer isn't necessarily your customer. So what their feedback might be, generally for the people that generally shop their store, but you have more of a premium product or more of a value product. So their feedback on the pricing of your premium product might not be relevant to you because you want to stay in that higher level category. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, totally. Well, assuming you do the research, because that like a
Yes,
part of that is definitely on you. Make sure it's the right retailer for you and the pricing works and all
totally.
that fun stuff. But yeah, totally.
I see Santa is asking, what if you're not sure which category you would be in? Usually this is available on the retailer's website. If they have a supplier portal, it would be available there. Um, but grocery categories might be a little bit different from more of like a Walmart category, but you have to figure out where you sit. And I can definitely help you if that's something you have a question with.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, but you might be also asking like if you sit between categories
Yeah,
too.
I sit between categories. So, like,
Yeah.
I've talked to folks at REI, and some people are like, you're going to be in the water bottle category. And then other people are like, no, you should be in the camping and hiking kind of category because that's the use case. Um, and so,
Yeah.
or another category. So,
I think that's like up to you to think about where you think it would sell best then. Because you want to come to them with a pitch for like, I belong here. Usually you don't want to leave it to them to figure out because they might just think it's too complicated and not figure it out. I'm thinking of people like, I don't know, like Perfect Bar is a good example. Perfect Bar is a refrigerated energy bar. When they came out, there were no other bars that were in the refrigeration category. But they said our bar is best refrigerated because it's fresh ingredients and it's going to go bad too quickly. So they really pushed hard to get into that dairy case category. And that really helped them sell more because they were outside of competing with all the other bars. So, yeah, just something to think about.
thanks.
And would you guys recommend that we have like kind of like an example of a planogram, like showing how our products slot in? Uh,
I love to see that. Yeah, because also, especially if you have some really nice packaging that might pop on the shelf, it's cool for the buyer to actually have a visual sort of cue for like, wow, that looks great. That should be on our shelf. So I would say 100% yes. I even know brands have gone in and like moved product to the side and like actually merchandise their product and taken a picture in the store for the buyer that they're going into. And that shows a lot of effort and it shows that your product really fits. So I love to see that.
I love that. That's a good idea because I'm like, oh, you have to hire a designer to do the planogram, which is like,
Yeah.
for it depends on the customer. If it's a super important pitch, you might do that. But actually going into the store and just doing it and doing the picture, that's
Yeah.
really that's scrappy. That's a good way of
But
doing
to be
it.
honest, I bet you could go into a store, take a picture of their shelf and use AI to get your products in there. But I would just be really aware that they're actually the right size, that all of that stuff is accurate, because if you're presenting something to them that isn't real, that would be a real problem.
Makes sense. Cool.
Any more thoughts here? Or we can move on to the pieces of the buyer pitch. Okay, there's an interesting question in the chat though. When we have products from different categories, do you recommend pitching for all, or do we take the best based on our judgment? Usually you're going to be pitching to a buyer that just oversees one category. So you need to just be pitching that one product. They should be aware that you have other products, but they're probably not going to be the decision maker for a yes or a no there. So I I mean, I think you are in a stronger position if all your products sit in the same category, just because then you can make more of a brand block, which is a little bit more impactful on the shelf. But yeah, you're going to probably be pitching them to separate buyers if your products sit in different categories. Okay. Well, please continue to come off mute and, give me your thoughts as we're going through this, because it's helpful to have it be more conversational and make sure that we're answering all your questions. So here's the overarching sort of slide deck recommendation, all the pieces that you should have in your deck. Usually you're presenting on a computer, but I would say definitely print out your deck. As Tristan said, if there's any sort of tech issue, you want to have a backup plan. So this is also good for just leaving with the buyer so that they can review the deck later and remember, what you said, what your products are. You should also have your line sheet printed out so that it can have a reference point later. Of course, you're going to follow up with an email and send all the information electronically too, but leave them with as much as you can. Okay, so let's get into it. The opening. So this is the introduction. This is where you're going to open with a brief, compelling, unique story, what inspired your brand. Definitely, you want to focus on your why. So like I said at the beginning, I do want to hear a story, an origin story, but it's got to connect to the product. So if you're telling me a story, I don't know, I don't want to tell a story that's going to offend anybody, but if you're saying your dog died of cancer and you were very sad and you had to lift yourself up and you created this product to lift yourself up, it's got to be a dog product. If you're talking to me about socks, I'm going to be very confused. So, and this type of stuff has happened where people tell me this really dramatic story and then it doesn't connect to the product. And that sort of feels like a bit of a waste of time. So definitely make sure whatever your origin story is, it connects directly to whatever product you're selling. And you're also going to obviously review your product. So this is really the heart of it. So the origin story should be pretty brief, concise, impactful, and then quickly move on to your product, because that's what the buyer really wants to hear about. So what are you offering? What does it fill for what gaps does it fill for the retailer? How long have you been in business? What's your mission? Do you have partners, management team? Do you have any press buzz, good social media channels? So definitely get in front of them with why your product is taking off. And these two slides, I mean, usually this is like an intro slide and then a product slide. These two slides are really important. The buyer's going to say that you have like 7 or 10 minutes to do your pitch, but usually they're making an initial decision within these first 2 slides. So I think you really need to start off strong. Most buyers know their decision within like the first 60 or 90 seconds, they say. So definitely make a good impression right out of the gate. You want to have your traction, your velocity, why this product wins against other products in the store really quickly out there. So don't build a story as the slides go on. You want to tell the story up front.
I think of it as you're making your argument in the beginning and defending it through the rest of your pitch, if that makes sense. So you want those big, important landmark pieces in the front, and then you're just like proof of concept every other's like here are the numbers. Here's how we did it. Here's why we did it. This is how we get it to you. This is what we can fulfill, and so on. So think of it like the big pieces you preview, and then you have these like breadcrumbs that live throughout the rest.
Exactly. Yeah, because I've been in pitches where, there's 10 slides going by and I still don't know what the product is. And that drives me crazy because I want to be considering all my questions, what are my concerns? Would this product work? I want to be considering that while you're talking to me about it. And hopefully you're, sort of reassuring me throughout that. So definitely get that out there soon. Okay, product presentation. This is where you're going to present in more detail your product line sheet, just discuss the quality, the inspiration. Buyers love to know your best sellers. That's going to be really important to them. If you have a hero product, this is when you're going to call that out. If you have any selling performance, definitely put in as many numbers as you can. And then you're going to talk about pricing. So what is your pricing strategy? What's your suggested retail price? And what's your wholesale price? They're definitely going to want to know both of those two items, especially the wholesale price, because that's what they're going to be paying you. Discuss the current revenue projections, and your retail strategy. If you're going to put this product on sale regularly, this is a great time to say that. They want to know that you're going to be there to support this product and ensure that it sells in their store. And by the way, we'll have a whole class on sales sheets, line sheets, so don't worry about that too much yet. We're going to get into detail. Okay, the opportunity. This is where you're going to talk about your customers. So most of you have, at least sold direct to consumer or in, farmers market, in small retailers. You want to really know your existing customer. You want to know what percentage of your customers are direct. If you're selling on online now and you have details about geographically where your customers are, that would be great to tell the retailer. Say this product is going to do awesome in Atlanta because most of my direct customers are, coming from the Atlanta area. So definitely know as much as you can about your customers and share that with the buyer. Describe the market you're operating in, include your current size, growth potential, and customer trends. How is this retailer going to benefit from your product is really the key question here. And then branding and marketing. What you're following, include any activity, if you have newsletters, if you have really strong social media, please include that there. Attributes, how do you define your brand? How do you build brand awareness? So you really want to figure out, your customer. You need to know what the buyer is looking for. Research of the buyer and the store is really important here. Know who you're competing with is another big piece of this. You don't want the buyer to tell you who you're competing with. And it's also a huge red flag when I hear people say they have no competition. When people tell a buyer they have no competition, the buyer is usually thinking this person hasn't thought too much about their competition. So definitely know that your customer shops in their store. And finally, the buyer is going to have to take off of the shelf another product to put your product on the shelf. So that's another piece of knowing your competition. You want to know why your product is better than that other item. So if you have a cereal and you know that Cheerios are going to have to come off the shelf, you need to tell that buyer, but my product is going to sell more than Cheerios because we have more protein, we have less sugar, we have a better brand following. So definitely sort of know and tell the buyer even, what product they should be taking off because it's, a slow mover and it's not on trend, and in order to put your product on there. And that's going to give the buyer the support they need, again, to go to their boss and pitch your product and say why they're making this change. Any questions here?
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. So what is the best way for us to pose the question to a buyer of what is it that they're currently looking for? You know what I mean? Because even if we explain to them why our product is better, there may be a whole other set of circumstances that we're unaware of that we could sell to if we knew them. What's the best way to ask that question?
I mean, I think you just did it. That's it.
Oh.
This is a conversation. And that was one of our sort of tips as well, was don't leave so little time at the end that you can't have a conversation with the buyer. And that's the time when you're saying, what are you looking for? What trends are you seeing in your customers? And really ask them that question so that you can then respond with, the reasons why your product is going to fill that need for them.
And one other question, trends. My product is it's a modern take on a very old, time-tested product, right? But trends don't really matter for me because well, they do. It's, it's the gluten-free, etc. So I guess I just answered my question.
And what's your product? Sorry.
It's called Creamy Keto Hot Cereal. It's a low-carb, gluten-free alternative to wheat-based farinas like cream of wheat or mapo.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trend then that you would be capturing is this sort of like back to traditional breakfasts and sort of like, the comfort foods and, people wanting to find that comfort and still meet their dietary needs. So
Yes.
I think that's sort of like the trends that you can capture. And I think that's really relevant.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Hello, hi. Yeah, I have a few questions. So, because our brand is not food product, we are a travel gear product. So for lifestyle, travel backpack for parents
Mhm.
and also backpack organizer. So, but we started online, so we are never in physical stores yet. Is that
Mhm.
going to be a no-no for major retail stores to invite us?
Not necessarily. I think if you because you have, proof of concept. You have customers that are buying your product. You can show that you have traction. I would really dig into the numbers of what you've sold online and know, what's your top seller, where are those customers coming from, and that's where you would target the retailers.
So the tricky part is because the parent backpack that we're selling, it comes with the dining booster, so which is very convenient for parents, but because of the product, it comes with multiple parenting products in one, so it's harder for us to sell really well online because it's a higher price ticket price item, and then so people probably needs to touch it before they can make the decision. So yeah, that's why for this kind of product, and we did do well when we were on CVS Mother's Day week last year. But because it is CVS promoting it. So like this kind of situation, it's hard for us to present with the big number. Will that be
Right.
another?
I think you just have to present that, you have capacity to get bigger and there's interest in the customers that they want this product. And then you have to go to retailers that, you don't want to, if it's a higher end product, you're not going to a discount retailer. You're going to a higher end baby product,
Mhm.
you know, customer in terms of your retailer. And I would definitely say you can try to get into a couple small stores that, are really easy for you to manage. And, you can test out how it does sell in brick and mortar retail.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then sorry.
that's okay. I'll also add, I mean, there have been a couple baby products that entered the market at a high ticket, very high ticket, and did well. And so I would actually use them as a playbook to see like how did Snoo enter the market with an $800 crib that rocks babies and potentially turns them into geniuses, right? So how did they enter? They started with online sales before they went anywhere else. If you look at what they did, their playbook was influencers, boutiques. So I don't know that necessarily you go from the web to Target, but what are the little steps along the way? And again, I think that goes back to look at other products within the space. How did they enter? What were their kind of channels? And then where is your customer, ideal customer? Where are they hanging out? Where are they shopping? Where are they registering for baby stuff? And then you need to be there.
Yeah. And who are
And
they
Mhm.
following so that, because those influencers, I mean, they're actually touching the product and they can tell in depth, like how this fabric is really high end, or, this feels like quality zippers, or whatever it is that your differentiators are.
Okay, one last question. So, because I'm also considering private label, because last year I met a Target buyer. They are starting their own baby brand. So, is that something you would suggest us to also consider? Since they are a bigger brand, when they promote the product, they probably can sell better than us as a startup brand.
Yeah, I just feel like it depends on whether you can, sort of show that the target customer is going to be willing to pay that retail price and, that you sort of match with what they have on their site otherwise. So I would go on their site and see, is your price point like way outside of what they're doing? Because they're
Yeah, we
probably,
actually sold quite a few, just not spending any ads, but we were able to sell on Target.com.
oh, great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
organically.
Yeah, that's great. That's great data then. Totally.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Sure.
we have one last question.
Okay.
Hi, Kathleen. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. My question is about branding and marketing. I'm assuming you are probably going to get to it eventually, but my product is very unique because I make a recipe from Ghana, a dipping sauce and marinade. So it's in a very unique category, and I was wondering if for a unique item in which is in the condiment category, but also very specialty, what
Mhm.
kind of branding and marketing are you looking for, and how can we leverage like newsletters or like the mailers that brands you get in the mail from various grocery stores about the items to use it as a pitch to ensure that it performs well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if your product is a little bit outside of what is mainstream in grocery stores, then you have a little bit of education that you have to do for your customers, just to show them that, like, hey, you know, this is a simmer sauce, just like you might put the, whatever curry sauce on your vegetables and tofu, you can do the same with this sauce, or, just make sure that the customers understand how to use the product and it's seamless in that way. So I think you have like a little bit of education, but that can be through recipe cards, your online presence. So I think it's just sort of getting out there and showing how to use your product, talking about the taste and the flavors. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but particularly in newsletters and mailers, because like when you
Yeah.
get like say like Whole Foods or any retailers, like the sales or discounts or promos they have going on, it's like $1 off. Yes, for a
Hmm.
unique item, I can imagine just showing that it's $1 off doesn't educate them enough. But
Yeah.
the question is, do retailers like Whole Foods and Costco's have their will they give me that much space to educate the customer with so little space with a bunch of brands
I
running sales or
usually
promo?
usually it's going to be on the brand to do their own education. So,
Mm.
there you might get a chance to get a highlight from somebody like Whole Foods, or sometimes they have like a supplier profile, but usually they look to the brand to make sure that the product is selling. So, are you in the stores demoing the product, to customers, sampling it out? That makes a huge difference. When customers taste it in person, they're much more likely to buy it. And putting the product on sale, it might, seem like it doesn't make a big difference, but if someone was considering your product, they see it with a yellow tag, dollar off, that might push them over the line to actually pick it up that time. So I definitely think that's a meaningful way to drive sales.
Not to be a terrible person, but I'll be the terrible person. We have more of the presentation to get through and Logan to pitch. So again,
Yeah.
these are awesome questions. Pop them in the chat. I am answering. And also, we'll meet mentors on Thursday. We can start taking mentor office hours as well. So write these questions down and let's get them answered.
Okay. So next up is current capabilities. What are your order minimums and maximums? How much product can you actually make right now? Where is it manufactured? What's your lead time? Are you EDI compliant, so ready to sell online? Are you FDA certified? Are you organic certified? So this is where you're really getting into the nitty-gritty logistics and details of your product. And this is a really important one. I know founders, and they're usually really optimistic and really like pie in the sky, big thinkers. And they tend to overstate what they can actually do sometimes. And I think that's a big risk. So definitely you want to be really locked in to the reality of what you can do at that moment and be honest with the buyers. Because if you promise too much and then you can't actually fill their shelves, they're going to discontinue your product and you're not going to get another chance. So I would say really wait until you're truly ready to be in that store before you go for it. Most people are more concerned about a no from a buyer. And I think actually the bigger risk can sometimes be the yes. If you can't seamlessly provide that product to them when they ask for it, it's going to be an issue. And here I also want to note that sometimes you're going to get a buyer that's going to seem like they're not interested or say they're not interested, but really they can sort of have more operational questions than true not interest in your product. But so you want to be clear that you can produce what you're saying you can produce, that your case pack size is going to work for them, your shelf life has been checked and is reliable. You have a distributor, you know how to do the logistics. So just make sure all those questions are answered so that you don't get somebody who's a little bit hesitant and ends up saying no for those reasons. Okay, close. So this is where you just tie it all together. Again, you want to finally say why this buyer should choose your product, express your readiness, and then ask for their business. say that you want to be in their store, so show some passion, and really say what you want. So again, at this point, you want to make sure that you've left time for questions. As I just said in the last slide, sometimes they have operational questions, which lead them to say no, and you want to give them time to talk through that and ask you all the details of what they're concerned about so that you can reassure them and they can get to a yes. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. And the other sort of tip here, I would say often at the end of a presentation, I would see brands sort of saying, I'm in talks with Target, I'm in talks with Walmart, as a way to sort of encourage the buyer to not feel like FOMO of not choosing the product. And I would err away from that because we hear it a lot. It doesn't really mean anything, especially if you're not actually in that store. What would mean something is, the stores that you're actually in, what's your sell-through rate? Have those stores expanded the line with you? How often do they reorder? And so sort of sticking to that true data.
Woohoo! Okay, so
I
your
have a
brain's
quick question.
Oh, go for it. Kevin, go.
I'm sorry.
Love that about you. Go.
Okay, my question is there I guess a certain revenue or baseline that you need to be made to actually be in Restaurant Depot or Costco's? Is that a requirement? You need to make a $500,000 to be in Costco's, $500,000 to be in Restaurant Depot.
Definitely not. But I would say, like, before you make a commitment to a bigger client like that, make sure whatever deal you're giving them in terms of your wholesale cost, you will make money. Because I know sometimes people want to promise big and give a retailer a deal so that they can get on the shelf and they're going to figure out the margins later. And that's not a good plan because you're going to have cash flow issues. So just really make sure that you're going to make money in these deals.
Okay.
It's tricky, Kevin, because there's not like a rule, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like if you sell in 2 stores, then Target considers you, or if you do $1 million in revenue. Also, most retailers, they start small and grow with you. So it's like they open one door and then together you build, a relationship and you can, we heard a little bit about this with Defy Snacks, right? But it's you start to build rapport and then they can trust that you're going to deliver on time and that it works out for everybody. And then they open 8 doors or they open a region. So it's very, very few times do you go into a pitch and leave with like an entire North American contract for all doors, all stores, right? So know that like I think for me, in what I've witnessed, it is more impressive that you've done research on the store, their customers, their categories, how your product fits in that store. You've taken out the guesswork for them, so that they can kind of imagine your product in that store. That is way more impressive. Like, because you could have done $1 million in revenue, but actually are like operating at a deficit and you can't keep an employee and you're bankrupt. So I think there's other signalers to a buyer of success than revenue, like traction and velocity and things like
Demand
that.
for the product. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna piggyback on that. So thank you both for your answers on that. So with that, is it wise to, in the conversation of, when you're having your pitch, to bring up that you're open to other options, maybe as far as the road shows or the what is it, the programs, the pilot activities that they may have, or just, is it wise to bring up those options that we are open to that as well? Or
I think you want to just show that you're going to be a good partner, and saying that you're open to a lot of different options. I think conveys that. So I'd say yes.
And they will suggest that too. Like they will come back and they will make suggestions for you around that. And so I think my favorite close of a pitch is like, all right, how do we get this deal done? What does a deal look like between our two? And like it's a little bit pushy, of course. It shows like you're excited, and then again, it opens kind of the conversation. I'm actually going to tee this up So as you can see, our next steps, start building your slides if you haven't already. I always suggest a script, not so that you read it like a bad actor, but you have your talking points, bullet point style, so you make sure you've got the ingredients and all that stuff. We will have a Venture Thursday where you will run your buyer pitch with buyers for feedback, not deal flow, feedback. This is a tool you can review in your one-on-ones with Kathleen, myself, Ariana, or any of our mentors we meet Thursday. So kind of the next step is to start chipping away at that. That you have that graphic organizer with kind of those guiding questions for things to include. If you have a deck, feel free to refine it. If it happens to be longer than 9 slides, cool, we'll navigate that. The time of it, well, let's give you a sample. So I'm actually going to kick this over real quick to Logan. Logan came into our program with a product. Logan, what were sales prior to the program? Where were you selling? Online?
Yes, we were selling online and in some pro shops, local mom and pops.
Cool. Awesome. So Logan, I'm gonna kick it. You can share your deck here, rock and roll through it, and then kind of think about all the things Kathleen just spoke about. Ideally, you'll see some examples of that through it, and then we'll cover the rest of these questions. We can also ask Logan these questions and Kathleen simultaneously, but I want to see kind of what this looks like in practice. Okay, pro tip, he used Canva.
Guys, thank you so much, first and foremost, for giving me the platform. Hi, everyone. I'm Logan. I just want to be able to preface this in the beginning. I'm still learning so much every day. Retail is a crazy, crazy world, and I'm only 21 years old. I'm actually on my college campus right now, so I'm getting through it. It's a crazy, crazy thing, but I think to what someone said earlier, it's just be yourself and be genuine. It's really much it's a very much so a conversation, but also at the same time, these buyers are going to be working with you for the rest of their career, hopefully. I mean, that's the goal, and you want to be someone that's really, really good to work with. And that's the first thing that you want to get across. But I wanted to keep this deck for you guys. We have an updated one, and we're going to be doing a Snowbelt launch in for Walmart, so around almost 300 stores around from Maine over to Minnesota for our hockey products, which we started in, and we're also doing a regional pilot of 60 stores at Dunham's right now. So both of those things rolling out, but all of the things that SeedSpot kind of give you, I've pieced them together in this slideshow, and we were so early at this point. Really, we had just broken 6 figures in revenue, didn't have any retail doors, but there was a certain thing in here that did have traction. So I kind of jumbled up my slides a little bit and told it a little differently, tried to be different than the next person, and started it with where hockey, like tape, educating them, setting the scene of
Well,
the
then I'm
problem
gonna
and
stop
what.
you. I love you. Stop telling us a narrative pitch like we're buyers. Take us
Oh,
through
okay.
actual buyers. Yep, do it.
I'll go in. Hi everyone, got through it. Ice hockey and its equipment. In the 1870s to the 1900s, sticks and tape were not even a thing. It was very much so grab a wooden plank and throw some tape on there and you could go ahead. And then it started to develop as you moved into the 1900s and the 1960s. Sticks got lighter and the performance increased and everyone really saw tape as more of a value proposition than anything. And now today, where tape is, it is everywhere in athletes. As you can see, the number one player in the league taping his stick before a game, just like everyone else. And it's used everywhere, around your ankles, around your legs, around your wrists. It's a very, very cornerstone product. And these are the problems that I saw as a player forever. It was the tape, it was the culture, and it was the companies. The tape never stood up to the test of the game. I was on the ice constantly, 4 hours a day. As a top 200 player in North America, something little as tape shouldn't be an issue. And the culture behind it, everyone is so stuck in their ways as athletes. It's very much so a thing of, athletes and especially hockey. And then the companies, they didn't let anyone grow. The companies that I'm competing with are older than I am in real age. So it's really been something that hasn't changed for so long, and we're trying to innovate it on the product and the brand level. And going into that, that's where our solutions come in. And that's where the quality that I mentioned before, just the subtle commitment to these athletes that tape's not going to fall off during a pressure situation, during an overtime moment, and really fostering the family relationship and creating, bridging the gap between the brand and our product, where it is combining a brand that people want to stand behind like Nike with elite products that really hasn't been synonymous with the tape world. And that comes with the community and moving forward past that, here is, oh, did it click through? Sorry, it glitched on my side. I'm going back to the other side. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. So this is the hockey market. And for Walmart specifically, this is what we were doing it for. We really want to be able to drive value and impact, and not only for us, but for the stores at Walmart. Hockey tape isn't going to be sold in Louisiana and Texas like it's going to be sold in Minnesota and Maine. And we really want to be targeted and not overstay our welcome. We really want to be able to drive this volume and not have things be returned and be good on the shelves for these, not only us, but them be the number one investment that they could make in the sports section. And we plan to keep expanding to where we can go nationwide with it into basketball, into football, into soccer, and all of these athletic tapes for these athletes. And I say all of this to give you my story and the company's story. I was a longtime hockey player and really realized that tape was a problem and that I wasn't going to be a pro and I could do something bigger and better off the ice. And my mom and my dad really helped me get this off the ground. With $9,000, we've been bootstrapped and profitable ever since 6 months after paying them back. So it's been amazing, amazing, amazing. And like I said before, we're growing partnerships and have growth in all levels into different sports, into different retailers, and we're adding SKUs and products every single day. And here's our market validation. The big thing for us, I know we don't have huge amount of retail doors, especially at this rate as a company that's been in business for 2.5 years. But with the professional teams that we work with a team in every professional league across North America. We're with 5 different NHL teams. We're with 12 different NCAA teams. And to get that trust from these elite level athletes who trust us every day to perform at their best, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to the company. And that's really where we've grown to a huge, huge extent. And, our following across social has boomed. Our users worldwide has boomed. And, we continue to grow every day and move that into international expansion. And this was our growth pattern as we started out as a company. And the competitive advantage directly at Walmart. This is really something that I have done a lot of research into. But the thing within Best Damn Tape and Walmart, I think being able to put a product that is used by professional athletes in a section that may not necessarily be synonymous with products that professional athletes use, I think it provides huge amount of value and can be the first retailer, especially out of these big 3 tape companies that are, in the space to be carried. And I'll go into the comparison of our products here soon, but we're niche, of course, and it's localized at the beginning, but priming for expansion. And we're extremely agile, being able to work with, not only what Walmart needs, but what our customers need, whether that's through Walmart, whether that's through our direct to consumers, our buyers. We really want to have a fruitful partnership no matter what. And we're launched on Walmart.com. That's a huge thing. We are on Walmart.com and we're working directly with the marketplace team to continue optimizing this at the highest level. Here's our product overview. These are our 4 main SKUs. Our clear tape, which goes around the hockey player's shin guard. That is, keeps their socks on tight, keeps their shin guards on tight, and prevents injury for when these players fall on the hard ice. And the cloth tape, which is really the main SKU that goes around the hockey stick, as you can see there. We've really worked with our manufacturer to have that trade secret, that custom formula to not only have powerful adhesive, but also powerful durability and not fall off during these high pressure situations. And grip tape as well. We just rolled that out. We've had a great reaction from our audience from it, and it's been great. And our hockey wax is another add-on to the cloth tape, which you can put on for extra longevity and extra grip for the puck. And then here's a mock-up. I don't have all the pictures in here, but here's a mock-up of our design and our packaging. So inside of Walmart, what I've noticed is that there's no box packaging for these rolls of tape. They're kind of thrown everywhere onto the shelves. And what we wanted to do and what we wanted to bring, not only for us, but for also you guys, is have it organized and be able to have them pull it out of a customized box that has branding, can pull people to the shelves, and both for our black tape and our white tape. We're going to have two different boxes. And then these are the products that we kind of have seen as a comparison, especially at the Walmart level. Future Stars is the product that is carried on the shelves at Walmart. So we have been really studying them. And I mean, the test and the comparison between what we've done, I've bought and actually I've bought all of these products and tested in between. I usually have an extra slide where it's compared. It's a comparison slide of best damn tape and then these four different tapes and performance-wise after an ice session. I don't have it in here, sorry guys, but that's what we did for the pitch. So we brought all these and then we kind of compared them to us in after an hour session. And then this is our product performance by SKU. Our clear tape is, I won't necessarily, it was our hero, it was our beginning SKU that kind of got us off the ground. So it still holds a lot of our sales along with our cloth tape. Our wax is only 10% and our projected for our grip tape is about 15% as we move into more wholesale deals. And so as of right now, we're still a young, early company. And I have this slide here for more as, you know, as our products grow and climb, you know, in the amounts, they go down. It's a tiered pricing. We can, you know, if it's 1,000 rolls compared to 10,000 rolls, the pricing is completely different. On the basic level, it's probably going to be an average between our white and our black products around 282 is the average that we have in between them. About 318 for the black and about 263 for the white. And that's with retail packaging all included. But that has the chance to go down when we move up in scale. In our logistics and operation, as I mentioned before, you know, we are in the United States and we are searching for another manufacturer for our clear tape, not in China or Vietnam right now. We're trying to pull them in the United States. It's been a little difficult, but all future tape past that will be made here in the United States as well. And, you know, this is really the perfect time. We're prepping for scale. We're really starting to gain that market traction and trust with these young players and this young audience moving to this next level. Now we're running short in time. And then the best damn team. This is, you know, the core, the bread and butter of where everything happens. Like I said, we're still a family business. My parents have been everything to me and been everything to this company. We have a few more employees now added onto this, some warehouse workers, a head of finance, a CMO. But I wanted to include our advisors in there who are just, you know, absolutely phenomenal. The CEO of Bauer Hockey and then the former CEO of Intuit, you know, have just been extremely amazing to me as I've moved through this journey and as we continue to grow. And thank you all so much. Sorry about my little mix up in the beginning, Tristan.
Oh, you're fine. I'm like a real buyer. I'm just being an angry person. I know that some of us we're at time and we're logging off. And so I just want you guys to know, we're going to see a couple of pitches done differently throughout the program. One thing before you log off is Logan, when you first gave this pitch to the Walmart buyers, what happened?
I first gave it to Manish Asrani. He's the director of sourcing at Walmart. And they said, hey, great job. Come see us I drove to DC. They were like, come see us in Columbus and stay in touch. And I just peppered them. I stayed in touch, created a good relationship with them. And they invited us to Columbus and gave us the fast pass to open call and then proceeded to get the golden ticket when we were down in Bentonville.
So again, I just want to point out that like he didn't get a yes to start and he kept in relationship with the buyers in the room. He kept in dialogue with the buyers in the room. He went and pitched his second time. He refined his pitch. He got coaching in the interim between 1 and 2, and he got a mulligan. He got to redo it. And so know that also when you pitch, it not all the time is your first time the best time. But what they saw in his first pitch was this desire to evolve and to do better. You can see in this pitch, he literally designed it for Walmart, its shelves. You could see they took a lot of the guesswork out, even in the packaging. And so they met him out. And I would say in that pitch event, and I don't know that they all go this way, but we had about 9 of our alumni stay in dialogue for deal flow later that did not come from open call. So just again, no's aren't necessarily no's forever. It could be not no's. And so just be open to the feedback and having that conversation. Sonia, you have your hand up and you've had it up since the beginning of Logan's pitch.
Kristen, I got to jump to another call, but
yes,
thank you all. All right,
anybody
later.
staying on, stay on. But yeah, go ahead.
I just had a quick question for Logan. Thanks for your pitch. It was great. I noticed like a kind of framing question just around your social media following. So I just looked on your Instagram. You had like a number listed like 90,000. Is that like the views? And
So
then
we
but your like followers are less than that. So just like curious if like do folks ever like I guess like poke holes in, the data, or is it cool to kind of like, kind of share
No,
that?
so we have a brand podcast as well that has about 86,000 followers now.
Oh,
So
so
it's
you're
kind
just
of
like, okay, so you're like
it's
aggregating the number. Okay.
another marketing arm that we've kind of developed where they could see my face, see me talk about things in the hockey space. And we're almost at 90,000 on there, and then including the other platforms, it's about where the 95 comes in.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I was just curious. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like also thinking too, like Logan's, I don't know a lot about hockey players aside from what I've read in recent romance novels. So with that, I don't know if they're hanging out on Instagram. So I like the pulling together of like it could be website clicks. I like that the podcast are pulling from that. So I think go back to your customer too. Like if your customer isn't in Instagram and your Instagram number is low, you can speak to that. Like, hey, we don't have a big following on Instagram, but we're selling to these professional teams, right? So I think it's okay if, in the checklist, one of those numbers are low, but then you've calculated for it to be higher somewhere else. Explain the
Yeah,
strategy.
that was a big traction point for us. Like, making it up with, not having retail doors, with having the trust of professional teams. That's where it was really big.
Yeah, that's huge. Congrats. I mean, that's like direct user, so that's huge. And just like the athlete kind of endorsement is super important. So
And it's completely
yeah, I was
different
just
than what
curious.
you guys and like in the CPG food, like you guys are in a very cutthroat industry. My shelf life doesn't expire for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Thanks. I'm gonna jump, but that was my question.
Other questions for Logan? Well, Logan, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking time away from class and joining us. And for always saying yes. I appreciate that about you. I think before we sign off, I know this was about buyers and buyer pitches. Um, I think the one question I'll ask you is, how did you make the most of the program? Is there any tips you'd give them for what to squeeze out of this program?
It sounds so simple, but really show up with intent. And the same relationships that you're trying to make in a buyer room or anywhere, the same ones that you're trying to, situations and relationships that you're trying to make in a buyer room or in an investor room, you should make them here because Tristan and all of SeedSpot has been, and they've been such a good champion for me into breaking into retail. And they were that inflection point for us. And, that was really what I tried to do. I just put my best foot forward every day, and take notes, ask questions, and be curious.
Thank you. We got a question. Where'd she go? Did she sign off? There you are, Veronica. Okay, great.
Hi, so I don't know what happened with my schedule today, but I missed the first half hour of class. So I apologize for that, but I need to hear, I guess, what our next steps are and what the assignments are. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We'll post it in Campground. You can follow up there. We'll also have a recording of the full class so you can catch the
Okay,
first half too. You got it.
perfect. All right, thank you.
Yeah, Kat.
Hey, this is the catch other half. Was curious if his presentation is something that is available to us, or is that just his? It was absolutely amazing, and I would love to use it as a template, or yeah, at least inspiration.
Yep. So we've got the template in the campground, right, with all of those talking points that Catherine went through with all the guiding questions. I did not ask Logan for his deck, and I don't want to pressure him into it, but we do have Ariana will give her pitch later. I don't want it's weird, like when everybody's staring at you. So Ariana will give her pitch soon. You'll get to be able to see that, and we will have access to her deck as well. So there will be like a library that we can set up, and if Logan leaves today's class and he feels like he wants to share it, cool, I'll add it in there too.
I think he
Awesome,
shared
thank you.
it.
Or he just shared it. So there you go. Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you, Logan.
You're the best, champ.
Cool.
Guys,
All right,
I wish
everybody.
I wish you guys luck. I have to jump.
Yeah. See you, Logan. Bye, everybody.